California's got me looking like a beach bum. Sun up in my hair, I'm rocking long beachy curls. I'm feeling like a Cali girl.
Hello everyone, I'm Emma, and I wanted to make this video today about a ballet company that I was with a few years ago called American National Ballet. If you're in the dance world, you know that, there was some shady stuff that happened, so I just wanted to come and make a video to shed some light on the whole situation and stuff. So if any of you know, American National Ballet was supposed to be a company in South Carolina. They approached different people with basically different rep that they were going to be doing throughout the season. I think they held auditions. I think my sister and I were like, oh, this looks like a cool company or something like that. Like it's a startup company. Um, it's in South Carolina, it's in Charleston. The time that I was like auditioning and stuff, and I was at Nashville Ballet at the time, or I was going to go to Nashville Ballet for the summer. So I wanted to have like multiple options. So I was at Nashville Ballet, and then I believe, an email from American National Ballet saying that I needed to accept or decline the offer that they had originally emailed. I had no emails. There weren't any emails in my spam or anything like that. Um, and so I was like, well, what's the offer? Like, I don't know anything about it. And I think this was their company manager, I believe, at the time. He gave me a call um, to, I guess, verbally give me my offer. And so I was just asking, like, well, what kind of rep do you guys plan on having? And who is actually like directing this company? Just like questions like that. Is it paid? Is it not? Shoe stipends and stuff. And he told me that they would be doing all these Balanchine ballets and works. So he's naming, like, I think 7 or 8 reps that they were going to be doing within, I don't know, I think like a 30-week contract, something like that. And I was just like, oh, sounds pretty good. And I mean, that was with Pennsylvania Ballet. Like, she was, the face of American National Ballet, basically. So it was supposed to be more of a company that embraced diversity as a whole, whether it be like body types or race, just different levels and stuff like that. And making a company where everyone felt welcome. So that was basically like their mission. And I know leading up to that South Carolina, there's always like hurricanes and stuff like that. So I think it was Hurricane Irma that was there at the time. And my roommate, before I moved there, she had moved to South Carolina. I want to say it like she was already there a whole month. So she had been living in the buildings and stuff like that. And she was telling me, oh, well, the studio that we're supposed to be in, we're not in yet because of the hurricane and stuff. So they weren't able to fix it up and stuff right now. So we've been taking class at this other studio that's about, I don't know, I think it was like 10 minutes away. It wasn't super close, 10-minute drive. So it wasn't like super close and stuff. And then obviously, like, if you're living in Charleston, you don't exactly need transportation or anything like that. And so the company, American National Ballet, had recommended that we stay at these apartments, these luxury college apartments in downtown Charleston on King Street. Well, like, the street was Wolf Street, but like you just walk down one block and you were on King Street. Like, you could see King Street from our apartment. And then the ballet studio was across from our actual apartment complex. So the apartments were a little bit more expensive, but the ballet company gave everyone a stipend, a monthly stipend that decided to live there. So I decided on going, and guys, I honestly, like, it was so sketch. Like, the apartment, I guess, or not the apartment, sorry, the building that was supposed to be our studio, supposedly it was this, I don't know, it seemed like it was kind of like an old furniture store that had nothing in it. Everything was cleaned out. But I guess whoever owned it was taking a vacation in France for a long time. So, um, yeah, they weren't able to come and actually like sign over the lease or, do all the paperwork for our company. That's what they told us. But turns out like they had never spoken to the people about renting out that place. It was a historic landmark, so the ballet, in a sense, couldn't like do anything to it. They couldn't put floors down, they couldn't put walls in, like all this stuff. So that part was actually super shady. I should have just dipped then, but we were all deceived. And so they were like, oh, well, this is our temporary studio, that you guys are going to be taking classes, all your classes at and your rehearsals and stuff. Um, and so that was a place that was like 10 minutes away, driving and stuff. A lot of us did not have cars because, you know, um, if you know anything about Charleston, there's like grocery stores really close by, like less than a mile, basically. There's all the restaurants there, your apartment is there, and then your work is there. So you don't need transportation. So a lot of people didn't bring their cars. And a lot of us lived in the apartments at the time. I would say that there was at least 15 of us that lived in the apartments. Um, and out of those 15 people, say only three had cars. Um, so, like, it was just kind of a struggle to, like, wake up at 7 in the morning, figure out who you were riding with, just stuff like that. But we all did it. And the studio that we ended up being at was, guys, it was basically an old, like, car repair shop. Like, there was, um, not concrete, yeah, like concrete basically as the floors that they had just put, I don't know, some weird flooring over it. Like, the flooring wasn't like raised, so your shins, like everybody's shins, every single day were in so much pain. Jumping and just walking on that floor. Like, I've never danced in such like a worse condition. Also, it's Charleston, like it's South Carolina. It gets cold in the winters, and it was just freezing there. They didn't have heat, so like people would take class like in their warm up booties, like the whole bar in warm up booties, and it's like clearly if you're working on like ballet productions and stuff, you obviously need to be feeling the floor before center. It's just a common thing. And so, yeah, like it was just the worst conditions ever. Everybody was in a lot of pain. Told us our like company manager, it was really weird how they ran everything. Like, our company manager would tell us stuff, and then like the director, the lady who originally had this idea, she was the wife of the guy. I guess his title would have been like CEO. Okay, and she was the founder of it. I never met her, I never spoke to her, she was not there. They just kept saying that she was sick, like that she just wasn't ever going to like be able to greet us and stuff, that she was just, yeah, not available. So like her husband was just trying to like take over, but he's just a businessman, I guess, at best. No knowledge of the dance world, not like even an athlete, like has no artistic, abilities, basically. Yeah, so there was like no empathy for like, oh, you guys are in this jank studio that's not even a studio, it's a car repair shop, with no heat. Oh my gosh, like the conditions, guys. It was horrible. So yeah, like our company manager would like come in and be like, okay, like we know you guys like have like kind of been like out of dance for a little bit, or you're transitioning, this and that. So we're gonna give you guys like a couple weeks to like, basically get back into it and stuff. But then after that, like the real work's gonna begin. There might be some firing, there might be, some promotions, some demotions. Everybody was like, what the heck? Like we signed a contract, there's no reason to like demote people or really promote people like when the season has already started. And so that was like very, I guess, scary in a sense, for a lot of us, because we didn't know anybody there, we didn't know any of the directors, the ballet masters and stuff. So it was just kind of like, what, like my job could be in jeopardy. And so after like a couple weeks of auditioning to like keep our same positions and stuff, like nothing really happened. And then y'all, okay, like we were just basically rehearsing like core of Paquita, and oh my gosh, you guys know, like that was not even part of our rep. Like so many of us were like, we did not sign up to be doing like Paquita, like that's not part of our rep. Why are we doing this? It's because they had nothing for us to do. They had no rep rights. Oh my gosh, we couldn't even do the core of Paquita in the studios because they were so small. So if you can't have what is it, maybe 20 dancers like on stage performing, or like dancing at least in your studios, I don't know what you're doing. Yeah, like we were just rehearsing Paquita, and it's like if you're a dancer, almost any summer intensive you're gonna do, you're not always gonna do Paquita, but like if you're a dancer, a ballet dancer, you've probably done Paquita more than once. This was my third time doing Paquita. I was like, and some of these people did not know how to do a mazurka. I was just like, where am I? Like, what is going on? And so we were just like rehearsing that for like 3 hours a day, and then we would go home. And they brought in this choreographer. He has his own company, his own contemporary company. They brought him in because we were going to be doing performing a new like rep piece, like he was choreographing it on us and stuff. And this guy's pretty well known in the dance world, and if you've like read any of the articles and stuff, I can't remember if like his name was mentioned in them, but yeah, like he was very respected like in the dance world and stuff. So I was just very shocked that any of this was really going on, because I was like, why would he be setting rep on us when we're not even an established company? Like we haven't even had one season. Like why are they paying thousands of dollars to have his stuff, like tens of thousands probably? And so we get talked to again by the company manager, and he's like, okay, so and so is gonna leave for a whole month, and then when he comes back, there's gonna be they're gonna cast a piece, and whoever gets casted in the piece is gonna stay, basically, and the rest of you guys like will either be fired or demoted and stuff. They were like, we realize that like we kind of can't have all of you guys here, like we're not making any money, we can't do a nutcracker and stuff. Like they couldn't even put on a nutcracker. I was like, dang, like these little Dolly Dinkle dance studios can put on a nutcracker. I don't know where all your money went, but like how can you not put on a nutcracker? Like buy some costumes from Discount Dance or something like that, like hand make props and put on a nutcracker, because South Carolina, like they have two like companies basically, but like there's no ballet company in Charleston. So a lot of the locals and stuff were very excited for there to be an actual ballet company. It's kind of like disheartening because obviously you work like in Charleston, at other jobs that you may have, and people are like, oh my gosh, did you hear that there's like a ballet company here and stuff? And you're like, oh, I'm part of that. They're like, oh my gosh, like that's amazing, like one of your shows and stuff, and you can't say anything. You can't say, oh, we have a show October 7th. You can't say that. You're just like, oh, yeah, we're really excited too. Hopefully we'll have, information about the productions that we're doing. So, everybody was like freaking out about these promotions and demotions and stuff. And, I was just kind of like second company couldn't get demoted because there was no trainee program. So we were all just kind of like, okay, well, we're just gonna get fired then, and stuff. And so basically, I want to say that this is maybe I don't know, maybe a month after, because I think, the choreographer was gone. He was gone for a long time, and to be honest, no one was running his choreo to make sure that like we all knew it. Like we would kind of all try to go over it, but obviously like we couldn't remember like exact details. Like our ballet masters were not, they didn't take notes, they didn't help us. Yeah, so anyway, when he came back, it was a hot mess, guys, a hot mess. And yeah, then the next day after we performed the choreography for him, they started doing they started calling like I guess different groups of people. So say it would be, you know, 4 soloists and 8 core members, that they would call into the studio, like supposedly like on our day off or something like that, and they would just fire all of them. They were like, okay guys, like sorry, we can't keep you. Yeah. And so the group that I was in, it was like almost all of studio company. I think except for like 3 people that got fired. They fired, I can't remember, but like almost everybody. And then also other people decided to quit. They just decided to leave on their own. Actually, were getting paid. Decided to leave because it was just very unprofessional. The stuff, some of the things that they like were telling them, and like just history between certain dancers and stuff. They were like, I just don't want to be a part of this anymore. So yeah, the group that I was in, like a lot of people were really devastated. They fired all of their apprentices. That because also too, when they were talking about like firing people and stuff, we were looking at the lease agreements that we signed with our apartment, and guys, these leases you could not break. Like this place, literally, like I think, okay, so it was like a college luxury like apartment. So there were a lot of college students there. And basically, like, rumor has it that there was this girl who lived there, and she like passed away, and her parents were like, we need to break the lease. And they were like, where's the death certificate, because we can't like allow you to break the lease like unless we see like evidence like that, this person died, is deceased. So like that was just crazy. I was like, what? Like we all like lost our jobs. Also the stipend that like we were receiving, they were like, oh, like you won't be able to receive the stipend anymore because you're not going to be employed by us. So like that stipend, it was a pretty good stipend, it really helped a lot of us out. And so it was just crazy. We were like, oh my gosh, we can't break the lease, like what are we doing? So we were going to the CEO guy, we're gonna call him Brad. We're gonna call him Brad, okay? So we were going to Brad, like, you need to help us, like, break this lease and stuff. Brad did not care. Brad was like, oh, you win some, you lose some. Like, you learn from, your mistakes and stuff. Yeah, so I don't know. It was also weird too because then we like found out that you know, people within the same rank weren't making the same amount of money. So there would be core members that were making like, say, $1,200, you know, and then there would be like some soloists that were making the same amount. So it was just all super shady. I don't know, like people were bringing up lawsuits. The dancers, they were like, you know, I think we should try to sue and stuff. And I was like talking to my parents, and I was like, I just want to get out of here. Like, my dad had called Brad and basically was like, you know, telling him like, you know, like my personal story and all this and that, you know, I'm like trying to make him feel some compassion for your girl. And somehow Brad literally like paid for my flight home. Like, you know, it was American Airlines, so, you know, small carry-on. I was like, can I get a Southwest, please? But I mean, whatever, my parents didn't have to pay for the flight and stuff, so that was nice. It might have been like maybe the week before I left that this information was given to us. But basically, there was this donor. I don't know, maybe I saw him once at the studio, I don't know. But basically he was telling Brad that, you know, the whole situation, basically it was like super like messed up. I thought that Brad should pay for all of our leases, and Brad was like, no. So God bless the donor. God bless the donor. Okay, so the donor ended up picking up all of our leases and paying them off for us. I believe our leases were all together accumulated were $250,000 that he got us out of. Thank God. I was like, I never have to like come back to Charleston. I never have to hear from these people again. Thank goodness. You know, and I like really like was thankful for that donor, because he didn't have to do that, obviously. Like, he's a donor, he has no obligation. I did forget to mention that this choreographer, when he came back the last time, they had mentioned that whoever they had chosen was going to be a part of his company. Like, they were gonna have like a collaboration. And I was like, there's no way. Like, okay, these are ballet dancers already, but the style of contemporary that he did, no one could do. Supposedly, they had given the choreographer $250,000 that they had raised for our season, and they had given it to him for the collaboration of the like two companies, or like for him to have like, you know, the American National Ballet Dancers, something like that, something so stupid. Like, no one's gonna do that. And that choreographer like casted some people, but like they never ended up doing anything with him. Like, he ended up leaving and ran off with the money. He used it. I'm sure this was like actually in the articles. Like, I don't know. I just don't want to say anybody's names because we're not trying to get sued out here. So yeah, like, he ended up running off with the money and paying the debt that he had, I think for like his company that was in LA at the time, I believe, that I was just with this last season. Like, during audition season and stuff, I was like talking to, you know, our company rep about auditions and stuff, and she was asking me, she was like, oh, where were you before, you know, you were here? And I was like, oh, because I'm like, it's such an awkward thing, because I mean, obviously it's like you can kind of laugh about it now, you know, it's not a big deal, but like during the time you're like, do I even tell people that like I was a part of this or not? So I was like, yeah, I was with American National Ballet, just because it wasn't even a real company, like at all. Like it was literally just, it was literally just people like that gathered in a studio every day, and it wasn't even like a summer intensive. It wasn't a school. Like I don't even know what it was. It was basically like, hey, come and like learn Paquita, like if you want to. Basically that. Like it was so weird. But yeah, I told her that, and it's like every single person in the dance world remembers American National Ballet. You know, even if they're with a small company, they're with a big company, it was kind of like the talk for a minute. So yeah, that is the tea about American National Ballet, and I'm so glad it's over with. And like my only advice for people that are potentially looking to, I don't know, I guess take a position with a startup company is to just read the contract and make sure it makes sense to you. You know, if it doesn't really make sense, like if they're saying they can do all these balancing works and none of them have dance with a balancing company, like to even, like not even like perform the works, but even teach the works, then that's a red flag. Don't believe that. And then also too, get someone who knows how to read a contract, whether it's any type of contract, because there's going to be certain wording in there that they're going to use to make sure that they're not liable for anything. Also, make sure you know, I guess, like what the state laws are, because in South Carolina, contracts do not hold up. So basically, if you have a contract, and both parties, so say, you know, a business company has given you a contract, you or that business can terminate your contract anytime, and it's 2 weeks. So like, you know, usually in the dance world or the, you know, artistic world and stuff, contracts are there to help protect the artist, and to, you know, to make sure you're still going to be getting paid. You know, you can't just fire someone just because you just want to fire them, like without any cause. But in South Carolina, you can. But like also, people were doing their research. Okay, they were like, we need to know what the state is about. And so also too, in South Carolina, you or either party can videotape and record any type of meeting, without the other person's knowledge or consent. So that was another thing, because, you know, I don't know, it was all super sketch to begin with, but the fact that they wanted us to live in these apartments so desperately, it was like, were these apartments like wired? Were, you know, were there cameras in there? Like we didn't know. It was so sketch. You know, also don't sign NDAs, because they made us, when the choreographer was in there, they made us sign non-disclosure agreements, you know, saying that anything from, you know, beforehand and that point further could not be discussed with, you know, the media, blah blah blah, like all this stuff. And they didn't allow us time to read it. Like also too, like if you're going to sign a non-disclosure, read the whole thing, so you know, do not let anybody pressure you into signing it without you reading it. Like they gave us our non-disclosure agreements and they made us sign them within 1 minute of getting them. You know, the COO, whatever she is, was like, you guys don't need to understand what, you know, what is on the pages and stuff, just sign them. And this guy was like, you know, oh, well, I'm going to take a picture on my phone so I can read it later, because like this is super sketch and stuff. And then that's when they fired everybody. So we couldn't even exactly, I don't know, make sure that you know what you're signing. Ask for advice from other professionals and say, hey, like, is this kind of like a legitimate contract? Just, you know, definitely look at all the details. And honestly, if it sounds sketch to you, like, trust your intuition, it probably is. You know, there's not any shady contracts being given out, and like no weird non-disclosures that they're making you sign right away. Yeah, but I hope that this video was like more insight to the mess of American National Ballet. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again.